Welcome to Political Prep.
Where school is always in session.
Andy, it's summer, the students are out of school, we're heading to the amusement parks, but for us political junkies, the amusing ride, the cattle show of presidential candidates.
And the cattle show's getting bigger with the announcement of Mitt Romney running for the Republican nomination for president. Jonathan Martin in Politico introduces us to the Romney introduction and also introduces us to the lexicon of words that connect with the presidential nomination process.
It's never too late, Andy, and it's right about now. It's time for us to review how do you get the nomination from your political party to be president. I'll tell you one thing, it starts in two places, Iowa and New Hampshire.
And that's called front-loading, the idea that the Iowa caucus, usually in the winter of a presidential election year, is the first place where party supporters actually get to go out and cast their preference for who their party nominee is going to be to run in the general election of November of that presidential year.
We have made the nominating process more democratic, which means you, the people, get to decide who the party candidates are. There are two types of ways to choose, Andy, and that is through a caucus and through a primary. And that's another reason why Iowa and New Hampshire are so interesting, but also so educational.
Yeah, primary is a traditional way to cast a ballot where you just show up, you vote, and you leave. It takes a 5-minute process. With a secret ballot, you see the results that night. A caucus is a much more time-intense process where party supporters show up to a public venue, maybe a library or a school auditorium. You actually voice your support, maybe raising your hand, going to a corner of the room. And this happens throughout that state, and it's a much more time-consuming process with tends to be lower voter turnout than a primary.
I'll tell you, Andy, another reason why Iowa and New Hampshire are so educational, we learn about political parties. We learn about the difference between base members of a party and also the grassroots.
Well, we know that in the primary and the caucuses, these tend to bring out base supporters. These are the foundational supporters of the party. They tend to also be the more ideological voters out there. So Democratic primary voters tend to be much more liberal than a general voter. A Republican caucus attendee tends to be much more conservative than a typical voter. And so if you want to successfully get your party's nomination, you better know how to get those base supporters out, and that usually entails grassroots organization.
We also learn about media, Andy, and how the media covers these nominating cattle shows. We learn about horse race journalism.
Well, we know that Mitt Romney is not going to run in the Iowa caucus because he doesn't think he has a good chance of winning. He is going to run in the New Hampshire primary.
He better.
And as the former governor of a neighboring state, Massachusetts, we know that if he doesn't win the New Hampshire primary in the horse race, we'll say that he was a quick loser, slow out of the gate, and the media will probably automatically describe his campaign as floundering and not having a chance to win. That's the horse race, covering politics almost as a sporting event of who's winning, who's falling behind.
We're learning about how to become president. First, you must join the amusing ride of the primaries and caucuses in all 50 states. And Andy, today we're learning that Mitt Romney is deciding he's in. In fact, he's all in. The question is, will the people in Iowa and New Hampshire, who have a whole lot to say on the front side, will they say he's in? We're two teachers. We're here at Political Prep. We're here to tell you the news with no fancy words.
No fancy suits.
Plain talk about issues you need to know.
Just in time.